pipelines from data center infrastructure, including CRM, CPQ, ERP architecture, infrastructure for configuration workflows, global enterprise software ecosystems, and future trends in AI-driven systems. So I'll take questions at the end. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see the entire Teams chat because for some reason I'm not able to share directly from my PowerPoint slide. So I'm using a share a window. But other than that, I'll try to take the questions at the end. If we can wait for that, we can definitely I can definitely answer a Q&A session at the end. So just about me, a little bit about me. I've worked in the space for about 10 years in enterprise CPQ and systems architecture. I primarily focus on CPQ, but I also have work in integrations for ERP as well as CRM systems. Tech stack I use is Salesforce, CRM, Oracle, Conga CPQ, and FPX CPQ. I've also built and deployed on Heroku for cloud platforms. And I have a background in both computer science from Oregon State University and economics from UC Berkeley. So I believe that this combination of both my background in CS and economics is perfect for the space because it definitely helps with how to understand enterprise systems, since they're mostly about most about business logic as they are about code. One of my recent achievements was building a VSP1 object, which is a product for data infrastructure at Hitachi. And we were able to generate $5 million on day one with the configuration platform through CPQ, providing a 40% efficiency boost. And we manage over 1 million API transactions annually. So let me start off with a quick example, opening story. Imagine that you're a bank trying to purchase a data storage solution, which is worth about $5 million. So this is not something that you would easily buy on, for example, online on Amazon. Adding to, for example, purchasing something off Amazon is fairly simple. You would go to that page, find the product, and then add to cart, and then purchase very easily. But for more complex products, such as data storage solutions, we would first have to understand what kind of storage arrays it needs, whether it's a NVMe drive or SSD, HDD, what kind of disks are needed, right? What kind of networking, whether there's switches from Cisco or Brocade or different networking protocols. What kind of software licenses, the amount of terabyte, the tiering that is required for maybe backup and disaster recovery or deduplication, and so on and so forth. Or, for example, what kind of support contracts are needed? The enterprise bank might need certain levels of support, such as 9x5 or 24/7 support, different levels of support in different countries as well. What kind of country it's being sold in? So there might be different restrictions on the data storage solution that's being provided in different countries. What currency is used, right? And also what discount level. One deal might include over 500 line items from the CPU, the server, the disk drive, the memory, so on and so forth, packaged all into a bill of materials that is then sent over to ERP systems with invoicing, purchase flow, and also different warehousing, which has to move forward the data so that in the end, the items, the products, the solution gets over to the customer. There also could be 10 different approvals based on different systems and also different negotiations and also pricing. So how does a company handle this? The answer is CRM, CPQ, and ERP all working together to provide a business enterprise solution to sell this product to enterprise bank, for example. So today's agenda will be covering 5 different sections. First and foremost, the enterprise software stack. I will be giving an overview of the different enterprise software stacks and how they matter and what they are. And then a deep dive into an architecture and workflows, for example, system design, integrations, as well as the quote to cash lifecycle. And I'll briefly touch more about that in the deep dive. And then I'll give an example of complex data center deals that I've dealt with and built, implemented for a data center CPQ at scale. And then we'll touch a little bit about global enterprise ecosystems, how the different enterprise software systems might differ based on geography, such as Americas, Europe, Asia, or China. And then finally, we'll discuss about how AI will transform these enterprise systems going forward. For example, intelligence, automation, prediction, and what might be next for this field. So the enterprise software stack. So imagine that you're at a restaurant, and at the restaurant there is the greeter, right? The greeter is sort of like the CRM. So they would understand the relationship between you and the restaurant, whether you have membership, what kind of food you like, the different times that you've come, how you like your steak, for example, whether it's medium rare, and whether you like mashed potatoes or what kind of side dishes you might like. Once you sit down, then a waiter would take your order. So that's sort of like the CPQ system. They'll ask you what kind of order you would like, how you like your potatoes, your eggs. For example, if you like it sunny side up or scrambled eggs or an omelet, they'll take that order, they'll write it down, then the order will be sent over to the kitchen. And the kitchen, the cooks, these are all of the um, basically, they would take the order, prepare it, track the ingredients, manage the staff, send you the bill. For example, the different departments at a company: finance, supply chain, inventory, and then delivery. But this is a very simple example. Now imagine if you have a restaurant with about 10,000 menu items, for example, McDonald's, and customers in 40 different countries, or different prices depending on who you are and where you're ordering from. For example, you can order different items at McDonald's in Hong Kong than you can in America or Japan or Hawaii even, right? They have special items such as egg tart in Hong Kong, or rice and spam in Hawaii. And so different products for different countries, different prices, depending on where you are. And that's how example of how enterprise software is managing every single day, from the different parts that they would manage to how they would manage the pricing. The CRM is the front door, managing the relationship. And then we have companies like Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, ServiceNow, HubSpot, Zoho, to name a few. And the CPQ is the one that sits a little bit in the middle. So how do we actually sell this complex item? Might be simple, but it could also be very complex, such as, for example, configuring a car. If you were to configure a car, you would have to determine what kind of color selection you have, right? The wheels, the size of the wheels, the tires, the different brands, and inside maybe the engine, whether it's determined by like the chassis or the configuration, right? And we can also configure different other items like airplanes, for example. And then ERP is the backbone. So once the deal is won, ERP will take over. They will do order processing, inventory, finance, supply chain, and so on and so forth. And SAP and Oracle dominate this space. So given big of an introduction into CRM, so I'm sure that many of you have heard of CRMs such as Salesforce. It's very popular. So they do everything from account management, contact tracing, sales pipeline tracking, lead scoring and routing, territory management, including activity logging and emails, as well as real-time dashboards. So these are the 6 things that CRM primarily does. But the thing is that most people underestimate that there is also, it can also be extended to a global scale, right? Where you have, for example, sales reps in maybe 40 or 50 different countries, multiple product lines. There's also reseller channels, reseller agreements, currency conversion. So CRM configuration becomes its own engineering discipline. That's why there's multitude of engineering fields just for Salesforce development with Apex in the back line and in the back end, and also different custom logic that has to be built for each individual enterprise organization. And I've worked on CRM implementations where we have to decide how the support levels will be linked to different reseller accounts and end user accounts, and making sure that the mapping is correct. It took a couple of weeks to design correctly, but after that, the automation would take over and would be able to streamline the process. I mean, so for example, if you were a global bank with branches in 60 different countries, you have to determine how each bank branch, they might have their own account for across the 60 different countries. How does revenue roll up? Does it roll up globally? And what happens if, like, for example, a branch in Germany buys something? Does the sales rep in Germany get the credit for their commission, or does the global account manager get it? So these are some of the real decisions with real revenue implications. So CPQ stands for configuration price quote. So there's a couple of different platforms that are CPQ really. There's Conga CPQ, there's Salesforce CPQ, Oracle CPQ, and SAP CPQ. So not as many companies, I'd say, actually have a CPQ enterprise system. Most do have CRM or ERP, or maybe they only have CRM. CPQ is mostly geared towards where you have to configure very large sets of combinations and complex products. For example, if you're working in data centers, maybe at automotive manufacturing, or airplanes, right? They have a lot of different components that have to be combined, different pricing for each of the components, volume, regional, and discount logic. There could be quote generation that it also is provided in CPQ, different approval workflows, and making sure that the mapping to ERP is clean and that the orders get pushed into the ERP software. So this is something that is used heavily in a lot of different manufacturing fields, industries, not so much in financial services or professional services, but it can also be used in different software, where software would be configured based on the tiering as well. And we have many software products that are configured inside CPQ. So ERP. ERP is the operational core. It's where the business actually runs. So there's primarily 6 different modules that ERP has. So finance and accounting, supply chain and logistics, HR and payroll, order management, fulfillment, procurement and vendor management, as well as manufacturing and production. So SAP, Oracle, Microsoft Dynamics, NetSuite. These are many of the different platforms that are ERP heavy. And I'd say that the integration between what we talked about earlier, the CPQ system, and integrating that into ERP, the mapping, is where a lot of the implementations do fail. So we would have to ensure that there's clean order coming from CPQ mapping directly, perfectly into ERP's data model, whether there's the part numbers, the pricing, the ship to addresses, legal entities, because any mismatch could cause a fallout, and fallout could mean delayed shipment, and that could mean unhappy customer. So there's many different contract companies that take these organization to develop their enterprise systems, such as Deloitte, TCS, different organizations that do try to optimize and build out these enterprise systems for different organizations. But the key factor is that making sure that if the organization does have a CPQ, that it does integrate fully and directly into ERP, because that's the very important validation to do. So section 2, here's just kind of like a brief timeline of how the quote to cash lifecycle works. So first, we have the CRM phase. So let's talk about a real hypothetical example. So for example, a manufacturing company in Texas wants to buy a data storage solution for their new factory. It's about a $3 million deal, and they have about a 1 or 2 year timeline. And here's how it will work. So the lead from the manufacturing company would come into the company's website, and then it would go, this data would go directly into Salesforce CRM after they fill out a form, for example. And then after that, the sales rep would review whether or not this opportunity qualifies. Is it a real opportunity? What's the budget? For example, what is the timeline? And then they will create an opportunity inside of Salesforce. And then the next step, the rep would open up CPQ, and then they would open and start configuring the product. How many storage arrays they need, drives, networking cards, software licensing. And they're selecting from a catalog of about 100,000 parts. So next step would be, from the product configuration, we need to have like a UI that is built to have compatibility and different validation to make sure that the part numbers are consistent and also is valid for the data storage solution. So the pricing and discounting, there's a pricing engine that runs. It will calculate the base price, apply volume discounts, apply for the customer's contract pricing, flag margin issues all inside the CPQ system. And then the quote will be generated. The quote PDF is generally automatic, and it would have the branding of the company, and then it's ready to send to the customer. And then after that, there would be a deal desk approval, where the deal desk would approve based on different margins and the different revenue metrics, and also making sure that they audit to make sure that the materials is all correct, the items that are being sold is correct, and all the part numbers are aligned. Afterwards, the order will be booked, and then there will be fulfillment. The warehouse would pick, pack, and ship the equipment. And then after that, finance would send over an invoice. Revenue is then recognized. So this process is called the quote to cash lifecycle, and it's much more improved. There's much more improvement upon it rather than many organizations that might be using Excel spreadsheets, for example, to track and build all of this. So for example, there's 75% faster quote generation with CPQ, 30% boost in financial reporting accuracy with the combination of data that's driven from CRM, ERP, and 50% fewer order errors with validation and compatibility logic built inside of product configurations. So the integration architecture and how these three systems talk. First, this is the customer layer, right? So this is what your buyers and sales reps will actually see, right? The UI, the portal, the desktop app, or the mobile interface where they can purchase and build different CRM, log their data or track their invoices. Then next is the application layer. So this is the bigger software enterprise systems like Salesforce, Oracle, Conga CPQ. These are definitely massive, complex systems that have a lot of development, many developers behind these organizations to build the application layer. And then after that, there's an integration layer. So this is sort of like the plumbing that not many people see. So the REST APIs, Swagger, for example, Event Bus, Kafka, MuleSoft, which is middleware that these are middleware platforms that connect all the systems together, connect the data flow from the CRM, CPQ to ERP. I personally used Swagger and Salesforce functions to manage transactions across these systems. Then there's the data layer. So this is the foundation. There's databases such as on AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and there could be legacy systems that have their own databases. But the key takeaway here is that none of these layers are independent. So a change in any of these layers would absolutely affect how it would work in the other layer. For example, the change in the application layer would um, require a change in the integration layer. And that's why we have enterprise system architects, solution architects that understand all these four layers simultaneously. Um, and I have an example. For example, we had a system upgrade for one of our CPQ systems, and it wasn't just a software update for that. It was a system-wide transfer of API integrations, retesting data flows, coordinating with Salesforce systems, Conga, and Oracle ERP to understand how these all function simultaneously. And that was about a 1 or 2 year long project that, there was a lot of time and effort built into how that would work and building that out. So section 3, infrastructure configuration at a scale. So since I'm working in data infrastructure, I'll talk a little bit about this industry. So and the products that we sell in modern enterprise IT. So we're talking about storage arrays, compute platforms such as Blades, Rack, Hyperconverged, networking fabric, for example, Fiber Channel, NVMe, iSCSI. There's also hybrid cloud, on-premise storage, or AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. Software such as data protection, backup, replication, disaster recovery, software licensing, operating system, hypervisor, or management tiers. So we have companies in this industry such as NetApp, Dell Technologies, Hewlett Packard, Hitachi Vantara, where the CPQ is absolutely critical, since a single storage solution can have hundreds of possible configurations with all the different nodes or servers, CPUs that have to be validated, and there could also be different networking protocols, software with different license tiers, and support that has different service level agreements. These configurations not interchangeable. So for example, you cannot mix certain drive types, cannot put a certain number of controllers in the chassis. And these compatibility rules are extremely technical that requires engineering manuals to be developed and implemented into these configurations. For example, one of the products I worked on, the VSP1 storage array, had over 1,000 different compatible and incompatible component combinations. And if a sales rep selected the wrong combination, sorry about that, wrong combination, the equipment would literally show up to the data center and it would not work correctly. So it's very essential to build and configure these accurately to ensure that there's no issues down the line. So real world configuration of enterprise storage, like I mentioned earlier, it's essential for complex configurations to use a CPQ solution. For example, if there are 60 different vendors with over 10,000 part numbers, we can build a CPQ solution on the UI that boils down 100 options from the screen down to 1 to 5 using different different validation or compatibility rules, availability rules. Since sales reps might be overwhelmed by having 100 options all at once, there could also be some cabling compatibility challenges which require engineering to validate. And so real-time compatibility engine is built in CPQ, which doesn't require an engineer to validate. There's also visualization, which I worked on, drag and drop, automation of data center cabling logic using Java or custom code. Another challenge could be manual quoting that used to take weeks or days, errors that caused order fallouts. But with CPQ, we can automate this quote generation, and it could take only a few minutes for deal desk to quote and then send out the order. Another challenge would be inconsistency across regions or product lines. So making sure that there's built-in product lines inside of CPQ, and also pricing data that is consolidated based on is basically um, pricing entries that are differentiated based on the region. So that's also something that CPQ can provide, and we have a lot of pricing flexibility inside of these solutions. So I'll give an example of how CPQ might build a $5 million data center deal that we talked about earlier in the very beginning. This is just a brief overview of this visualization configuration. For example, in a data center, you can see on the left, you can configure the different drives, whether you need a certain drive chassis. So at the bottom, there's the controller chassis on the left. Then the different SFF small form factor drive chassis. And after that, standards S small form factor about 16 is being configured. And you can see that there's an error message on the screen that says that the total number of drive chassis on DBS2 on this product, the VSP E1090, cannot exceed 16 in standard mode. And using CPQ, we can catch configuration errors that the sales rep or the deal desk might incur before any engineer has to review it, or any quote has to be submitted. Because without this validation, a mistake could go all the way to manufacturing. There could be wrong parts ordered, and the equipment, like I said earlier, it would arrive to the customer site and doesn't work correctly. So on the right, you will see a more complex configuration and rack visualization. So they would select here different node quantities. Example here, they selected 6 nodes, but you can select from 2 nodes or 4 nodes, and it'll render a full rack visualization at the bottom automatically. And that's how the hardware would look like, similar to how it would look like at the physical data center rack. But before this, some engineers would have to build this manually, these rack diagrams manually, do Visio or AutoCAD or even Excel. And that took maybe a few weeks to quote each of these large multi-million-dollar data center solutions. So with CPQ, we can automate this by building out these automations for rack visualizations, and also the cabling logic that is built in automatically by determining what is the next chassis above that. For example, the controller chassis might have a specific length of cable that's attached to the small form factor or large form factor or NVMe drive. And that can be all automated through the Java code. So this is just a basic understanding of how CPQ would be able to improve, for example, quote time, quote velocity, revenue generation, lower errors, for example, 22% to 3%, 86% improvement, approval cycle from 7 days to 1 day, our configuration options shown on the screen from 100 to 5. And, this is definitely something that really improves both from a user's perspective, but also from automation being able to help with revenue generation for the sales cycle. Section 4, global enterprise software ecosystems. In one of the most important things that we have to understand is that enterprise software does not look the same everywhere, right? So the same company that runs Salesforce or SAP globally might configure different systems by the region. So in America's Salesforce for CRM, Salesforce is very dominant. And for CPQ, there could be Salesforce CPQ, Conga CPQ, different systems like Oracle CPQ as well. For ERP, I would say that Oracle ERP is most heavily used in Americas. In Europe, SAP dominates ERP, and in where places that have GDPR compliance is non-negotiable, there could also be issues with multi-language localization. So you would need an enterprise system that provides support in Italian, Spanish, English, or French. There also could be tax complexity as well when you're selling the product, for example, the VAT. In China, Salesforce might be a little bit more limited. There could be more local CRM. CPQ could be custom built, localized tools. And in ERP, could be smaller vendors such as KingD or, you know, believe it or not, maybe even WeChat. There is also WeChat business to business integrations, because in China there's more data sovereignty laws that so you cannot use the same cloud infrastructure as the rest of the world, right? So um, that's how it might be set up in China, more custom built localized tools and also smaller vendors. In Asia Pacific, this is more of the fastest. This is more like faster growing region, so they might use more for a small or medium size, which is Zoho CRM is perfect for that. CPQ might be Salesforce CPQ or custom. ERP could have legacy systems, like for example, in Japan, there's many legacy systems that are have the dependency. But the overall lesson is that when you're designing a enterprise system, you can't design it just for one region, right? So we have to determine which one would be correct in the region that it's in. So this slide is mostly just how the software market in 2024 would how CRM, ERP, CPQ might be, and so how that would you can see CPQ is smaller. There's more usage of ERP and CRM, but in Americas it's very dominant for enterprise software market. So section 5, AI use cases, real enterprise use cases across CRM, CPQ, and ERP. So in CRM, there's already many developments with Salesforce Einstein, as well as different lead scoring, intelligence, opportunity racking, AI emails, helping the sales teams give email suggestions or meeting summaries. But before AI, these systems were just really good at recording what had happened. So CRM would record that a sales call had occurred, or CPQ would record that a quote was generated, or ERP would record that an order was shipped. But every major vendor, Salesforce, SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, after AI, a lot of these systems started to predict what would happen, and then also provide actions and suggestions and how we could be able to act on it. So, for example, CRM has next best action recommendations, or AI sales agents, automatic follow-ups. CPQ has AI product configuration suggestions, or even prompting, making a prompt to configure something automatically based on that prompt. For example, provide me a data center solution with 5 terabytes of disk drives and however many RAIDs that you need, and this 32 gigabyte memory has to be one combination. So it can provide you with a configuration automatically, and sales reps would previously go into the UI themselves and update that. But with AI, there could be more guided selling, AI assistance for reps, LLM proposal and quote generation, and also deal desk risk scoring before approval. With ERP and AI, there could be more advancements in demand forecasting, inventory optimization, invoice and PO automation, financial forecasting, as well as fraud and anomaly detection. But overall, these AI features, they improve the accuracy and also reduce errors. However, these are essentially augmenting and empowering, for example, junior staff or intermediate staff or even senior staff to have even more effectiveness. So it's not really replacing many of these functions, but augmenting and assisting the existing staff with enough upskilling, they could be a lot more effective at using these, and also being more efficient at whatever they're tasked with. So I think with AI, these use cases, they do a lot of automation and improvements, but I'd say that it's more augmenting the current existing staff. So end-to-end AI architecture. So this is sort of a slide that shows how the AI would be able to connect the entire quote to cash flow. So AI agents can operate autonomously across every step now. So, for example, creation of opportunities, configuration of products, generation of quotes, um, approving discounts, creating orders, and forecast demand, detect financial risk. So a lot of these steps, like we mentioned previously in the previous slide in the examples, can be automated using AI agents. And one other thing is that the companies that are building these architectures now, end-to-end AI architecture, I believe that they will be able to, if they are able to connect all the systems, CRM, CPQ, and ERP, and the data layers into a unified AI pipeline, that's going to have a major operational advantage that will compound year over year. For example, if there's company A that is still waiting for a human to manually configure quotes, wait for manager approval, send out the invoice manually through Excel, whereas company B has an AI agent that generates 100% valid or even 90% valid competitively priced quotes within 30 seconds. I mean, it would be very easy to understand which company would win the deal in the market, right? So it's definitely something that is to understand how that would be able to improve the competitiveness of companies going forward who invest in the AI in architecture. So this is sort of similar to the other slides. So right, CRM plus AI, there could be lead scoring, next best action, churn prediction. So Salesforce Einstein, I believe that there's a lead scoring that has, for example, a probability score that has how much percentage, for example, 73% chance of closing this deal, and then they will route it automatically to the top sales rep. But what's more newer and more exciting is the next best action, for example. So it doesn't just score the leads, but it will tell the rep, you should call this person today, send them an email template, and then mention a specific product feature. It's like having a coach whisper into your ear for every deal. So I'm seeing a couple messages, but we're almost done with the slide. So I'll answer any questions after that. So AI adoption roadmap for enterprise systems. So the key tech before was 2020 to 2022. There was more role-based CPQ automation. So, for example, and also basic CRM scoring, cloud ERP migrations. And now in 2023, 2024, with Copilot, Einstein, AWS, SageMaker, there's more augmentation. Copilot features inside of CRM, ERP, AI-assisted configuration and predictive analytics. Later, we see in 2025, 2026 with GPT-4 or Claude embedded directly into enterprise workflows. And also Salesforce Agentforce is becoming a real product that enterprises are deploying today. Autonomous deal processing beginning, LLM power proposals, and real-time pricing AI. But beyond that, I believe that in 2027 and beyond, there could be agentic AI as well as digital twins, where you would have a physical set of the product and also the digital variation of it. It will be interacting simultaneously. So fully agentic pipelines, I believe, is where AI would be able to manage significant portions of the entire process with minimal human intervention. So that's something that I believe that going forward, there's with all this AI automation, right? There's more demand for people who can design, govern, debug these AI systems. The demand for that is only going to go up, and enterprise AI is only as good as the data that it trains with and the rules that it operates with. Someone has to build those systems and also audit those systems. So this is also fairly similar to what we discussed in the other AI slides, but the old way, the manual process, sales teams would configure or within maybe 2 or 3 days a quote. There could be email chains through 3 levels of DoDes for approvals, and then somebody would manually re-enter the data into ERP. There would be no middleware or a MuleSoft. Finance would reconcile the invoice weekly by hand. That's 3 weeks, $50,000 of labor cost per deal approximately. But with AI, AI would be able to configure these quotes within 30 seconds and to do some kind of auto approval if the margin threshold is met. ERP booking using APIs, real-time invoice matching, no human needed, and it could only take maybe 2 hours, and we can redirect our focus towards the business strategy. So one thing though is that AI might not be able to handle unusual or edge case scenarios, for example, that still needs to have manual intervention. So AI today might be able to handle 80% of all different configurations and pricing and automate the approval. That's something that I'd see how that would be able to work today. But there's a shift between systems that make decisions and bring humans. We're building systems now that help humans make the decisions, but later on, the systems will be able to make the decisions themselves and bring humans only in only for example, exceptions or the strategy, right? So, I mean, this is something that matters because it's coming closer to see how that AI agents can run the entire enterprise systems processes autonomously. So, zero touch order creation could be here. I think that's something that would happen within the next 5 years, and companies would be able to build these architectures for the AI way. They would be able to compete in the next 5 years instead of still using spreadsheets and manual entry, which is definitely not competitive in this space. So some key takeaways. The enterprise systems are deeply interconnected. CRM, CPQ, and ERP are not 3 separate tools. They're one revenue engine, and one weak link in any of the system would break the entire quote to cash chain. CPQ, if your company is selling complex configurable products, you're not using CPQ, you will be doing something that would be leaving money on the table and burning out your sales team. So with anything with complex options, pricing rules in technology, manufacturing, finance, different products, that's something that would be a value add if there was a CPQ implementation. Global operations demand localized strategy, so you can't use a US design enterprise system in China or Germany, for example, without a significant rework. And there's regional compliance culture that's real constraints. And finally, AI is moving from assistant to autonomous agent. And the question isn't whether AI will transform your quote to cash pipeline, but the question is whether you'll be ahead of that curve or behind. thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking about this space, and feel free to ask any questions. I'll be looking over in the chat to see if there's any questions, and also feel free to email me or add me on LinkedIn. Um, so let me see chat window. So I see a question from Singta. With AI becoming more capable, do you think that it could eventually consolidate or replace parts of CRM, CPQ, or ERP instead of just enhancing them? So yes, I definitely believe that with AI becoming more capable, as I mentioned, there's many use cases for this. Specifically, for example, um, the zero touch order. So using AI automation from end to end, there could be possibility of replacing this. But at the end of the day, I believe that the AI would be able to augment current capabilities of staff as well as CRM, CPQ, and ERP. So I don't think that they would be replacing them, but there could be some consolidation and also enhancement is possible. Is there any company that has done a complete pipeline AI automation? If not, which one is ahead? I don't think that there is a specific company that has done a complete automation that for this business systems space, but I think that that I know of. But I know that Deloitte, TCS, I think they're all in this space. Um, Salesforce, they might specialize in the CRM AI automation. Oracle might specialize in their AI automation for their space. But I'm not sure if there's too many companies out there that have done the complete pipeline AI automation for different organizations. Where do you see the boundary between CRM, CPQ, and ERP responsibility moving as AI agents mature? Does the middle layer collapse? So the middle layer, I guess that you're talking about the CPQ layer. I still say that again, not as many companies use CPQ, but for more complex deals, there is still needs to be a logic built in, a custom logic that has to be built in for compatibility and validation. So AI agents could generate that custom code, but that layer would still be required for more complex configuration. But I'd say that there is still a boundary between the data that flows from these different enterprise systems, from CRM, CPQ, and ERP, and we still need some mapping to be processed between those different systems. But as the AI agents mature, I definitely believe that there could be more streamlining of this space, and of course more efficient processes. What is the current state of the art in the space? What parts are already pretty much automated using tools like Agentforce? Um, so I I'd s- I understand that the question is mostly about what kind of automation is used. Um, right now, with Salesforce, there's a lot of automation, like I mentioned in the previous slides, amongst uh, suggesting to different deals based on probability of how they close, how much percentage it might take for the deals to close, and then routing that automatically to the best sales reps. So that's one example. Another example would be um, essentially uh, providing suggestions to sales reps, such as follow-up emails, and also following up with the customers themselves. So different AI agents, assistants um, will be able to help in that space. And I also have a couple of resource links for everyone. There's a slide at the end. Um, sorry. There's also this slide. There's a couple of free Salesforce training that can help you with the continuing the learning journey, and also Salesforce Architect Center, for example, ERP systems, Oracle, University, SAP Learning, CPQ if you're interested in that space, Salesforce CPQ, Conga CPQ, and AI in the enterprise, Salesforce Agentforce Docs, SAP Business AI Overview, and also get to feel for the state of AI with McKinsey reports. So all that I believe would definitely help with more understanding of how AI would be able to function in this space. Okay, so a couple more questions. In the CPQ part, is server configuration generation still manual? No, the server configuration generation is not necessarily manual. So essentially, you would be building different UI components on the screen where they would be configuring the server. For example, if you were to configure a HPE server, you would have the different CPUs, the different cards that are inside. But the coding part might still be a little bit more manual. So I believe that in the future, AI would be able to, based on a prompt, they could come up with a server configuration within a couple of 30 or 40 seconds, instead of sales user being able to manually select those configuration components. But there still needs to be compatibility and validation rules behind the scenes in the backend for the server configuration to be valid. So I hope that answers that question. And then Gaurav asks, for smaller businesses or even freelancers managing their own sales pipeline and invoicing, where does something like Odoo fit in this CRM CPQ's ERP picture you've described? So I understand Odoo. I've heard of the company because I believe that they work in the CRM space. So they work primarily with smaller or medium-sized businesses in the CRM space. But I do know that they might have a little bit of ERP work as well. Okay, so you corrected me. So it's an ERP. So um, ERP, I still believe that Odoo would be able to help with invoicing, sales pipelines, but I'd say that I'm not too completely familiar with Odoo to be able to answer your question. But I think that it's definitely something that smaller businesses or freelancers would be able to take upon.
Yep, sure. I saw that you mentioned the big names, but
Right.
since we work with small businesses, of course, like for freelancers, I wanted to see where does like a tool like Odoo like fit in, but
Right.
that's fine. Like I'm okay with the answer.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Is there any other questions that you have for me today?
Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll go for that. So thank you, Jason. And I believe you already shared all British. Okay, one more question. One
Okay,
more
sure.
question.
For the whole deal flow here, what is the range of quotations, or what is the minimum amount you guys deal with? So, I mean, it's anywhere between maybe $100,000 to 50, $100 million deals that we would deal with. There's also one configuration that is very complex that takes into multiple data center storage, the entire solution, including servers, different arrays, switches. So that could be anywhere from 50 million to 100 million, because we're providing the entire package, including the software, different suites, different terabyte quantities based on disaster recovery, and hyperscalers, which is more complex, which has to be built out with a very large set of solutions. So we'd have different nodes and different server configurations on the screen. There could be, for example, 50 or 100 nodes. It depends on the capacity or requirements of the business user, but there's definitely more complex configurations that can be done, which is it has to be built out for the entire solution. Right.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. So thank you for everyone joining to this session. I hope this give you a clear view of how AI is being applied across CAR, CPQ, and the ERP. So if you have any other further question or ideas, I think Jason already shared with us his email and the linking page. Yeah, so feel free to reach out. We can continue the discussion offline. So thanks again, and have a great day.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jason.
Have a
Thanks,
nice day.
Thank you.
Jason,
Bye-bye.
for having. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, and